Majority Leader.
I stand consent to call the quorum be terminated.
Without objection.
Mr. President, this is a day I didn't think would ever arrive. But we're here, I think. I so admire, having managed a few bills in my day, the work done by Senator Stabenow and Senator Roberts. I'll say more about that later. But this is not a great agreement, but it's a good agreement, and they worked so hard to get where we are. I so appreciate what they've done. And as I said before, I didn't think we would be here. Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent when the Senate resumes consideration of S3240, the pending motion to recommit be withdrawn, that amendment number 2390 be withdrawn, that the Stabenow-Roberts Amendment 2389 be agreed to, the bill as amended be considered original text for the purpose of further amendment, that the following amendments and motions be the only first-degree amendments and motions in order to the bill. Caucus 2440, Akaka 2396, Baucus 2429, Bingaman 2364, Brown of Ohio 2445, Cantwell 2370, Casey 2238, Coons 2426, Feinstein 2422, Feinstein 2309, Gillibrand 2156, Hagan 2366, Kerry 2187, Landrieu 2321, Manchin 2345, Merkley 2382, Schumer 2427, Stabenow 2453, Udall of Colorado 2295, Warner number 2475, White 2457, Warner 2457, Wyden 2442, Wyden 2388, Leahy 2204, Nelson of Nebraska 2242, Klobuchar 2299, Carper 2287, Sanders 2254, Thune 2437, Durbin Coburn 2439, Snow 2190, Ayotte 2192, Collins 2444, Grassley 2167, Sessions 2174, Nelson of Nebraska 2243, Sessions 2172, Paul 2181, Alexander 2191, McCain 2199, Toomey 2217, Dement 2263, Dement 2262, Dement 2268, Dement 2276, Dement 2273, Coburn 2289, Coburn 2293, Kerry 2454, Kyle 2354. Let me read those again. Kerry 2454, Kyle 2354, Lee 2313, Lee 2314, Boozman 2355, Boozman 2360, Toomey 2226, Toomey 2433, Lee motion to recommit, Johnson, Wisconsin motion to recommit, Chambliss 2438, Chambliss 2340, Chambliss 2432, Ayotte 2195, Blunt 2246, Moran 2403, Moran 2443, Vitter 2363, Toomey 2247, Sanders 2310, Coburn 2214, Boxer 2456, Johans 2372, Murray 2455, McCain 2162, Rubio 2166. Rubio 2166, that at 2:15 tomorrow, Tuesday, June 19th, the Senate proceed to votes in relation to the amendments in the order listed, alternating between Republican and Democratic sponsored amendments. That there be no amendments or motions of order to the amendments prior to the votes other than the motion to waive points of order and motion to table. That there be 2 minutes of debate equally divided in the usual form in between the votes, and all after the first vote be 10 minutes. That Toomey 2247, Sanders 2310, Coburn 2214, Boxer 2456, Johans 2372, Murray 2455, McCain 2162, and Rubio 2166 be subject to a 60-vote affirmative vote threshold. That the clerks be authorized to modify the instruction lines on amendments so that the page and line numbers match correctly. That upon disposition of the amendments, the bill as amended be read a third time, that there be up to 10 minutes equally divided in the usual form prior to vote on passage of the bill as amended if amended. Finally, The vote on passage of the bill be subject to a 60-vote threshold.
Is there an objection? Without objection, so ordered.
I would note the absence of quorum.
The clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Akaka. Mr. President, I would ask suspension of the quorum call.
Senator from Michigan.
Thank you very much, Mr.
Without objection.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. As we're waiting for wrap-up this evening, I just want to take a moment to thank all of our colleagues for an extraordinary effort to get to this point where we're going to be able to come together, debate a number of different issues related to the Farm Bill and other issues as well, and be able to come to a final vote and passage on the Farm Bill. And so I want to thank, first of all, Senator Reid for his extraordinary patience and talent, and in working with Senator Roberts and I and all of the staff, all of the leadership staff that have worked with us on this. I also want to thank Senator Roberts for being a tremendous partner with me, and both of our staffs who are doing yeoman's work. And there's a lot more work to do. We have a lot of amendments that we will begin tomorrow, I believe tomorrow afternoon, and then working on through the week to get done. But this really is an example of the Senate coming together to agree to get things done. People of different backgrounds, different ideas, different regions of the country. This is an opportunity for us to show that the Senate can work together, which is what we're doing right now on a bipartisan basis. And be able to move forward on a very, very important piece of legislation. This bill is a jobs bill. This bill represents 16 million people in the country who work because of agriculture in some way. We've had a lot of jobs bills in front of us, Mr. President. I'm not sure there's been one that has directly affected 16 million jobs like this does. We also have an opportunity in this bill to come together and clearly state that we're serious about deficit reduction. We're the only authorizing committee that's come forward in a bipartisan way with a bill that cuts the spending within our jurisdiction, $23 billion in deficit reduction, $23 billion. We've gone through every part of this bill. We have literally analyzed every page and determined that there were some programs that were duplications or not effective or didn't make any sense anymore, and we ended up with about 100 different programs and authorizations that we eliminated from those items under USDA jurisdiction. And so this really is a reform bill, and I know that the presiding officer, who is a real champion of reform and is a champion of agriculture, and we work together on certainly on fruits and vegetables and organic farming and local food systems and a whole range of things that are reflected and improved upon in this bill. And I thank, Mr. President, you for your leadership and continued leadership on those issues. But this really is an opportunity to come together around deficit reduction, around reform, to focus on jobs, to give our farmers and our ranchers predictability in terms of knowing what will happen going forward as they make business decisions for themselves. It's a huge opportunity around conservation. I think most people wouldn't realize in first blush that the Farm Bill is actually the largest investment we as Americans make in land and water conservation, air quality, related to working lands. You know, 70% of our lands are privately held lands in some way, farmers or others, landholders, and the conservation title affects how we work with them to be able to conserve our land and our water and address air quality issues. And we've had huge successes there, huge successes. So this is a real opportunity to build on that. I know certainly for regions across the country, my own Great Lakes region, it's critical working with our farmers who have a number of different environmental issues to address. On behalf of all of us, this gives us an opportunity to partner with them to deal with soil erosion and water quality issues and runoff into our lakes and streams and Great Lakes, and deal with open spaces, protecting wildlife habitat and wetlands, open spaces, creating a new easement program which will address urban sprawl so that we're protecting our lands. I'm very proud of what we've done in conservation. We've actually taken it from 23 different programs down to 13, divided it into 4 different topics, a lot of flexibility, locally led, with communities, farmers, ranchers, working with the local communities. We've saved money by what we have done, but at the same time, we're actually strengthening conservation, which is why we have, I think it's 643 different conservation and environmental groups that are supporting what we're doing in terms of our approach on conservation. So very pleased with that. And you know, the rural development provisions of this bill affect every community outside of our urban areas. The majority of Michigan receives support through financing for water and sewer projects, small businesses, housing, working with local law enforcement and police and firefighters, local mayors and city council people, counties, all across Michigan and all across the country, certainly in Oregon, where rural development funding and support for quality of life and jobs in rural communities is very much a part of this bill. So we think of the bill in terms of production agriculture, obviously critical. I don't know any business that has more risk than a farmer or a rancher. Nobody. And so we all have a stake, and we have the safest, we have the most affordable, dependable food supply in the world, and we want to make sure that no farmer loses their farm because of a few days of bad weather or something beyond their control. So what we do in production agriculture is very important. But we also have a broad role together with rural communities, with ranchers, with farmers to support our land, to support our water, our habitat, our air, and we do that through conservation. We have rural development. We have energy title that allows us to take what we do, the byproducts from agriculture, whether that be food or animal waste or biomass from forests or corn or wheat or soybean oil or whatever it is, to be able to create jobs through bio-based processes, bio-based manufacturing, advanced biofuels, going beyond corn to other kinds of advanced cellulosic biofuels, very much a part of this bill, all of which creates jobs. And so we are creating jobs in a multitude of ways in the bill, and we're also supporting families who, because no fault of their own in this recession, have been hit so hard, who need some temporary food help. And that's also a very big and very important part of this bill. And for the people in my state who have been hit very hard in the last number of years, it's important that we be there. They've paid taxes all their lives. They've supported their neighbors. They've been there for other people. And now if they need some temporary help, we need to make sure it's there for them as well. And that's a very important part of this bill also. And in addition, we see a whole range of efforts around local food systems that also create jobs, farmers markets, children in school being able to get fresh fruits and vegetables, more of our schools being able to purchase locally, things that we can do to support families to put healthy food on the table for their children or make sure it's available in school. Very important efforts going on there, and we make sure that all of agriculture is included, including our local food systems, and that's a very important part of the bill. So this is a large effort. We do it every 5 years. It takes a tremendous amount of work. Every region of the country has a different view, has different crops that they grow, has different perspectives. So it's a lot of hard work to bring it all together. But this evening, we've been able to come together on a path to final passage, agreeing to the list of amendments. And this is a democracy, Mr. President. I don't agree. I don't support all of those amendments. I know other colleagues do not as well, and we'll talk about them. We'll debate. We'll vote. That's the Senate at its best. And that's what we're doing here by agreeing to process a list of amendments from every part of the country and members on both sides that have very strongly held beliefs. And we respect that. We respect their right to be able to debate those amendments. And I also want to thank the patience of those whose amendments will not be brought up. We're not in the unanimous consent agreement. We had, I think, about 300 amendments when we started. We knew that was not possible to be able to have a vote on every one of those. And so colleagues' willingness to work with us was very important, and I'm very grateful to people who are willing to work with us on both sides of the aisle and those that we will continue to work with. This is another step in the process. We have put together a bill that we reported out of committee and with a strong bipartisan vote, and now we brought it to the floor with a very large majority. Very grateful that 90 out of 100 of our colleagues came together to say, yes, we should debate, we should discuss, we should work on this Agricultural Reform, Food and Jobs Act. And now with the agreement that we have, members are saying, yes, we should go forward and work on these amendments and have a final vote. And in this democratic process, Mr. President, I think that's all we can ask for, is that people of goodwill are willing to come together and have the opportunity to debate and have the opportunity to vote. That's what it's about, and I'm grateful that colleagues were willing to work with us to be able to achieve that. So I know that we are waiting for final wrap-up comments, Mr. President. I think at this moment I will yield the floor and suggest the absence of a quorum.
The clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Akaka. Mr. Alexander. Mr. President, I would ask
The Senator from Michigan.
we vitiate the quorum, please.
Without objection.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would ask unanimous consent that on Tuesday,